The moment his hand struck my cheek, the world seemed to freeze. The chatter of wedding guests, the soft hum of violins, the warm glow of sunlight through the stained glass, it all faded into a deafening silence. I stood there, the perfect bride in the perfect dress, but everything else was shattered. And as I clutched my burning cheek, I thought this would be the worst moment of my life. I was wrong. It was just the beginning. The day was supposed to be a fairy tale, the culmination of 3 years of love and promises. The historic mansion we had chosen as our venue sparkled with the kind of timeless beauty you see in bridal magazines. Every detail, from the cascading floral arrangements to the delicate lace of my gown, was a dream come true, or so I thought. But as I stood there in my wedding dress, surrounded by stunned silence and wide-eyed stares, the reality hit me harder than his hand ever could. My groom, the man I thought I'd spend my life with, had revealed a side of himself I could never have imagined. And his family, the seemingly picture-perfect, polished Browns, were hiding secrets far darker than I'd ever known. What happened next changed the course of my life. A single phone call the following day uncovered a web of lies and manipulation, so intricate, it didn't just destroy my dream wedding. It pulled me into a battle far bigger than myself, a battle for truth, justice, and my very survival. But before we get to that, let me take you back to the beginning, to the day that started as a dream and ended as a nightmare, the day that turned me from a bride into a fighter. I never imagined that just hours before my wedding, I'd be sitting in a quiet bridal suite, gazing into the antique mirror, wondering if I was making the biggest mistake of my life. My veil framed my face perfectly, the delicate lace of my dress clinging to me like a dream come true. But my hands trembled as I smoothed the fabric. Something felt off. It wasn't just the nerves of a bride-to-be. It was something deeper, a gnawing unease I couldn't shake. Margaret, my soon-to-be mother-in-law, had just left the room, her perfume lingering like a bad omen. Her sharp words replayed in my mind. "You'll never be good enough for our family." I tried to shrug it off, telling myself that the day wasn't about her. It was about me and Michael, the man I thought was my soulmate. But when Michael barged in, moments before the ceremony, his mother's venom still fresh in his eyes, everything unraveled. What came next was a public humiliation so shocking that it still makes my stomach churn to this day. But instead of breaking me, it set me on a path I never expected, a journey to uncover truths that would rock not only my world, but the lives of many others. Before I dive into the twists and turns of this incredible story, I want to take a moment to connect with all of you, my wonderful audience. Where are you watching from? Let me know by dropping your country's flag in the comments below. And if you've ever found yourself questioning someone's true intentions, or if you've had the courage to walk away when everything seemed against you, hit that like button. This story might just remind you that strength often comes from the most unexpected places. Now let me take you back to that fateful moment, the slap heard around the room. Little did I know, it wasn't just an act of violence. It was the first thread pulled from a web of lies, deceit, and betrayal so intricate, it would take everything in me to untangle it. This is the story of how one act of betrayal led me to uncover secrets that changed my life and others forever. I left the wedding venue that day with nothing but my bruised cheek, my dignity, and my best friend Emma by my side. The silk hem of my wedding dress dragged across the pavement as I walked away from what should have been the happiest moment of my life. The whispers of stunned guests faded into the background as I climbed into Emma's car, fighting back tears. The ride to her apartment was quiet, save for the soft hum of the radio. Emma didn't push me to talk. She knew I needed time to process. My mind raced with flashes of everything that had just happened. The slap, the accusing stares, Margaret's satisfied smirk. It all felt surreal, like I was watching someone else's life unravel. But when I touched my cheek, still stinging from Michael's hand, the reality set in. This wasn't a dream, it was a nightmare. At her apartment, Emma wrapped a blanket around me and handed me a cup of tea. "You're safe here," she said softly, her voice filled with the kind of unwavering support only a best friend could offer. I sat on her couch, still in my wedding dress, staring blankly at the steaming cup. The calls and texts had already started. Michael, Margaret, even a few guests who had witnessed the disaster. My phone buzzed relentlessly on the coffee table, but I couldn't bring myself to pick it up. Hours passed in a blur of silence and tears until, finally, exhaustion overtook me. I fell asleep on Emma's couch, still clutching the blanket like it was the only thing keeping me grounded. But peace was short-lived. At 7 a.m., the shrill ring of my phone jolted me awake. I groggily picked it up, my heart sinking at the sight of an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. "Hello." My voice was hoarse, barely above a whisper. "Is this Anna West?" The voice on the other end was sharp but calm, carrying an urgency that snapped me fully awake. "My name is Rachel Connor. I'm Michael's ex-sister-in-law." I froze. Rachel Connor. Michael had mentioned her once, only in passing, calling her unstable and bitter after a nasty divorce from his brother Thomas. I had assumed she was part of some distant family drama, nothing that would ever concern me. But as Rachel spoke, the puzzle pieces started falling into place. "I saw what happened at your wedding," she began, her tone softening. "It's all over social media. And Anna, I need you to know, you're not alone. This has happened before." "What do you mean?" I whispered, gripping the phone tighter. My heart pounded in my chest, a mixture of fear and curiosity. "They do this," Rachel said, her words measured but heavy. "Margaret, Michael, the whole family. They target women, successful, connected, or vulnerable. And they use them. Weddings, public scandals, lawsuits. It's a pattern. I've seen it. I lived it." Her voice cracked slightly, and I could hear the weight of her own trauma through the phone. "I tried to fight back," she continued, "but they ruined me. My reputation, my finances, my life. I've been gathering evidence ever since, waiting for someone brave enough to stand with me." I sat there stunned as Rachel's words washed over me. Suddenly, the little red flags I had ignored during my relationship with Michael didn't seem so little anymore. The subtle moments of control, the gaslighting, the way Margaret always seemed to be pulling the strings. It all clicked into place, and my devastation turned to something else entirely. Determination. "What kind of evidence?" I asked, my voice steadier now. "Emails, financial records, recordings," Rachel said. "Proof of everything they've done, not just to me, but to other women too. I can share it with you, but you have to promise me one thing." "What's that?" "Don't let them win." I glanced at Emma, who had been listening silently from the other side of the room. She nodded, her expression a mix of worry and resolve. "I won't," I said, my voice firm. That phone call was the moment everything changed. What started as a devastating betrayal became a mission to uncover the truth, to expose the Browns for who they really were, and to take back the power they had tried to strip from me. Little did I know this journey would lead me to places darker than I could have ever imagined, and closer to a strength I never knew I had. The days that followed were a whirlwind of emotions and revelations. Emma's apartment became our command center, a small sanctuary where the chaos of the outside world couldn't reach us. Rachel sent over files, photos, and recordings that painted a chilling picture of the Brown family's true nature. Each piece of evidence felt like a slap in its own right, but it also fueled my resolve. I wasn't just fighting for myself anymore. I was fighting for every woman who had been hurt by their lies. Emma and I sat cross-legged on her living room floor, papers spread out around us like the remnants of a storm. "Look at this," Emma said, pointing to a highlighted section of a financial document. Rachel wasn't exaggerating. "They've done this to at least 5 women. Public humiliation, then lawsuits to extract money or silence them. And that's just the ones we know about," I said, running my finger over a list of names Rachel had compiled. My name was the latest addition. Seeing it there, in black and white, felt surreal. They had a file on me before I even met Michael. They planned everything. Emma's jaw tightened. "We need more than this if we're going to stop them. We need undeniable proof, something so damning they can't talk their way out of it." That's when Rachel called again. Her voice carried a mix of caution and urgency. "There's a housekeeper," she said. "Linda. She's worked for the Browns for years. If anyone knows where they keep the real records, it's her. The idea of approaching Linda felt risky. The Browns were known for their influence and power, and anyone associated with them would be wary of crossing the line. But I couldn't let fear stop me. I'd already lost so much. What was a little more risk if it meant justice? Emma and I waited until Saturday morning to find Linda. She frequented the local farmer's market, and as we wandered through the rows of fresh produce, I spotted her almost immediately. She was older than I'd expected, with silver-streaked hair and tired eyes that darted nervously as she browsed the stalls. "Linda," I said softly, approaching her with careful steps. She stiffened, glancing at me from the corner of her eye. "I know you don't know me, but I need your help. Please." She didn't stop walking, her hands absently picking up a basket of tomatoes. "I can't talk to you," she murmured. "If they find out—" "I know about the others," I said, lowering my voice. "Rachel, Caroline, all of them. I know what they've done, and I need your help to stop them." Linda's hand trembled as she set the basket down. For a moment, I thought she might walk away, but then she turned to me, her expression heavy with years of unspoken truths. "Come back Tuesday night," she whispered. "They'll be out at their country club dinner. I'll leave the service door unlocked." That night, Emma and I couldn't sleep. The weight of what we were planning, the risks, the stakes, pressed down on us like an unrelenting storm. When Tuesday finally came, Rachel joined us, and the three of us waited in a car parked a block away from the Browns' mansion. The house loomed like a dark shadow against the night sky. Linda kept her word, leaving the service door ajar. My heart pounded as we slipped inside, our footsteps muffled by the thick carpet. The air was heavy with the faint scent of Margaret's perfume, a reminder of the woman who had orchestrated so much pain. "Margaret's office is upstairs," Linda had told me earlier. "The key to the safe is in the kitchen, false bottom in the third drawer." We moved with quiet urgency, Emma retrieving the key while Rachel and I searched the office. The room was as intimidating as its owner. Dark wood paneling, expensive art on the walls, and a massive desk that seemed to dominate the space. "Here," Rachel whispered, pulling open a filing cabinet. Inside were folders, each labeled with a name. I froze when I saw mine. "Anna West," I read aloud, my voice shaking. I flipped through the pages, each one more invasive than the last. Financial records, notes about my family, even emails between Margaret and Michael discussing how to handle me. They had been planning this for years. "This is it," Rachel said, holding up a USB drive she'd found in the safe. "If there's anything incriminating, it's on here." Just as we were about to leave, Emma's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, her face paling. "They're leaving the club early. We need to go. Now." The three of us scrambled to put everything back, but my hands trembled as I tried to close the last drawer. We slipped out the service door just as headlights appeared at the end of the driveway. My breath came in short, panicked bursts as we ran to the car, diving inside just in time to avoid being seen. As Rachel drove us back to Emma's apartment, I clutched the USB drive tightly in my hand. "Do you think it's enough?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Rachel glanced at me through the rearview mirror, her expression grim but determined. "If what's on this drive is what I think it is, it's more than enough. But Anna," she paused, her voice taking on a serious tone, "this is bigger than just you or me. If we're going to do this, we need to be ready for a fight. The Browns won't go down without one." I looked out the window, the glow of the city lights blurring as tears filled my eyes. I wasn't sure what scared me more, the fight ahead or the possibility of losing. But as I thought about all the women who had suffered at the hands of the Browns, I knew I didn't have a choice. I couldn't let them win, not this time. The next morning, the weight of the previous night's events clung to me like a heavy fog. Emma and Rachel sat across from me at the kitchen table, the USB drive connected to Rachel's laptop, its screen glowing with secrets that could dismantle the Browns. "Here it is," Rachel said, clicking on the first file. A video opened, showing Margaret sitting at her desk, speaking to someone off camera. Her voice was calm, calculated, and chilling. "Make sure it happens during the reception," Margaret said, her tone devoid of emotion. "Anna's family has enough media connections to amplify the fallout. Once the narrative is out there, we'll move forward with the lawsuit. Defamation, emotional distress, it doesn't matter. They'll settle to protect their name, just like the others. I sat frozen, the sound of her voice like ice creeping up my spine. It wasn't just the manipulation, it was the precision, the confidence with which she spoke, as though ruining lives was merely a routine task. Rachel clicked through more files, financial records, emails, scripts for public scandals. It was all there. One document stood out, a spreadsheet detailing the Browns' profits from each scandal. Millions of dollars funneled into offshore accounts under the guise of charitable donations. Emma shook her head, her voice trembling with anger. They're not just ruining lives. They're running a criminal enterprise. The enormity of it all hit me like a tidal wave. This wasn't just about me or the women who came before me. This was about exposing a family that had used their wealth and influence to exploit and destroy for years. "What's the next step?" I asked, my voice steadier than I expected. Rachel leaned forward, her expression serious. "We take this to the FBI. I have a contact who's been trying to build a case against the Browns for years. This could be the evidence they need to bring them down." The decision was unanimous. That afternoon, we met with Agent Torres, a seasoned investigator whose calm demeanor put us at ease. He reviewed the files, his expression growing darker with each passing minute. "This is exactly what we needed," Torres said, looking up at us. "But we'll need more. A direct admission from them would seal the case." "How do we do that?" I asked, my stomach nodding at the thought. Torres hesitated for a moment before answering. "You'll need to meet with them, pretend to reconcile, wear a wire, get them to talk about the scams and the money laundering. It's risky, but it's the best shot we have." The room fell silent as the weight of his words sank in. The idea of facing Margaret and Michael again, of sitting in the same room as the people who had tried to destroy me, made my skin crawl. But deep down, I knew it was the only way. "I'll do it," I said finally, my voice firm. Emma reached for my hand, her eyes filled with concern. "Are you sure, Anna? This could be dangerous." I squeezed her hand, drawing strength from her support. "I'm sure. They need to be stopped." The plan was set. The meeting would take place at the Browns' mansion in 2 days. Torres and his team would be stationed nearby, ready to intervene at the first sign of trouble. I spent those days preparing myself mentally, replaying everything I'd learned about the Browns and their schemes. But no amount of preparation could fully erase the fear that lingered in the back of my mind. When the day arrived, I dressed carefully, choosing a simple black dress that reflected the subdued persona I needed to portray. The FBI fitted me with a tiny camera hidden in a necklace and a microphone disguised as an earring. Every step of the plan was designed for precision, and I clung to that structure like a lifeline. Michael greeted me at the door, his expression a carefully curated blend of concern and remorse. "Anna," he said softly, reaching for my hand. I pulled back instinctively, the memory of his slap still fresh in my mind. "I'm here to talk," I said, my voice calm but firm. "That's it." He nodded, stepping aside to let me in. Margaret waited in the study, her usual air of superiority radiating from her as she gestured for me to sit. The room felt suffocating, the walls closing in as I took my seat across from her. "Anna," Margaret began, her tone syrupy sweet. "We're so glad you came. This whole situation has been terribly unfortunate." I met her gaze, refusing to let her intimidate me. "Let's cut to the chase, Margaret. What do you want?" Her smile faltered for a brief moment before she recovered. "We want to make things right. Our lawyers have prepared a settlement agreement, generous compensation in exchange for your silence. All you have to do is sign." I feigned hesitation, my fingers fidgeting with the necklace. "And if I don't?" Margaret's smile turned cold, her true colors bleeding through. "Then we'll have no choice but to defend our reputation. You wouldn't want your father's company dragged into a scandal, would you? We have evidence, Anna, enough to destroy you." The moment hung heavy in the air, and I forced myself to appear vulnerable. "You've done this before, haven't you?" "To other women." Michael's jaw tightened, but Margaret spoke first. "Don't be dramatic, dear. We've simply protected what's ours." Michael leaned forward, his voice low and menacing. "Sign the papers, Anna, or we'll make sure you regret it. My pulse quickened, but I held my ground. You mean like Rachel? Caroline? How many lives have you destroyed, Michael? He slammed his hand on the table, his mask of civility cracking. They were nothing, just like you. Before Margaret could stop him, he continued, his words dripping with venom. You were perfect for this. Your connections, your reputation, it was all business. Don't make it personal. The sound of the study door bursting open made all three of us jump. Agent Torres and his team entered, their presence commanding. That's enough, Torres said, his voice firm. Michael and Margaret Brown, you're under arrest. Margaret's composure shattered as handcuffs clicked around her wrists. You think this is over? She spat, her voice filled with venom. You have no idea who you're dealing with. But I did. For the first time, I saw them for what they truly were. Powerful, yes, but not invincible. As they were led away, I felt an overwhelming sense of relief and vindication. This wasn't the end of my story. It was just the beginning of a new chapter, one where I wasn't a victim, but a survivor, a fighter. And for the first time in months, I felt free. As the months turned into years, the echoes of that fateful day grew quieter, replaced by the hum of a new life filled with purpose. Phoenix Rising became more than a support network. It became a movement. Women from across the country joined forces, sharing their stories and standing up against injustice. Together, we created a community where no one had to feel alone, where strength was shared and hope was restored. On the second anniversary of the conference, I found myself standing in a park surrounded by a crowd of survivors, their laughter and stories filling the air like music. The event had grown beyond anything we had imagined, a living testament to what could be accomplished when people refused to be silenced. Emma and Rachel stood beside me, their smiles reflecting the same sense of fulfillment I felt. Look at what you started, Emma said, her voice full of pride. We started this together, I replied, squeezing her hand. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm golden glow over the park, I took a moment to reflect on the journey. From the ashes of betrayal, we had built something stronger than any of us could have imagined. The Browns had tried to use my pain to destroy me, but instead that pain became the foundation of something greater, a force for change. I glanced down at the phoenix pendant around my neck, its smooth surface warm against my skin. It had become more than a symbol. It was a reminder that even in the darkest moments, there was light to be found. As I looked out at the crowd, I saw not just survivors, but warriors, women who had faced their worst fears and come out stronger. The Browns' empire was gone, their power stripped away, but what we had built in its place was indestructible. Taking the microphone, I addressed the group one last time that evening. We are proof that no matter how deeply we are hurt, we can heal. No matter how far we fall, we can rise. And when we rise, we lift others with us. The crowd erupted into cheers, their voices carrying into the night. In that moment, I felt a profound sense of peace. The scars I bore were still there, but they no longer defined me. They were simply part of the story, a story of resilience, of triumph, and of the unbreakable strength found in unity. As the event wound down and I walked to my car under the soft glow of string lights, I realized something important. I wasn't just free from the Browns. I was free from the pain they had tried to chain me to. My life wasn't perfect, but it was mine, and it was filled with a purpose that no one could take away. For the first time in a long time, I felt truly whole. And as I drove home, the stars shining brightly above, I knew with certainty that the best chapters of my story were still to come.